Katherine Ryan has defended fellow comedian Jimmy Carr after he sparked outrage by joking about the Holocaust. Jimmy, 49, recently sparked criticism over a clip from his Netflix special His Dark Material, that saw him joke that the thousands of gypsies killed by the Nazis was a positive outcome from the Holocaust. After the quip began to circulate online, Jimmy was subject to widespread condemnation, with even Prime Minister Boris Johnson commenting on the unacceptable remarks. However, Katherine, 38, exclusively told Mail Online that she felt the joke had been taken out of context and that showing just a small snippet of the stand-up gig was designed to be hurtful. Earlier this month, Katherine defended the roast style of comedy, stating at the National Comedy Awards, that is a genre of comedy that he happens to be best at. "I think it is important that we all protect that genre even if people get offended by it." Doubling down on her remarks, Katherine told Mail Online, "I just think that sometimes with social media there is a trend of taking something in one context and isolating parts of it that are going to make people angry by publishing that one bit, and it could probably feel like an ambush if you're just surfing social media and you're not the kind of person who is into that genre of comedy, because what Jimmy does is very specific to that genre and it's understood by the people who love it. But if you take anything he says, any of his jokes, and write them down and show them to people who aren't expecting that type of comedy, it's out of context." The Canadian comic added, "I think it's actually really nasty to show it in a different context where it could be hurtful." Katherine and Jimmy have worked together on several shows such as Your Face or Mine, 8 out of 10 Cats, and Roast Battle. She went on to say, "Nothing that any comedian says on stage is meant to be hurtful, but as soon as we take it and isolate it on social media it has the potential to hurt people. No comedian has the intention of hurting people even when they tackle difficult subjects, so I do think social media has changed the way that comedy is metabolized." In the Netflix footage, Jimmy said, "When people talk about the Holocaust, they talk about the tragedy and horror of 6 million Jewish lives being lost to the Nazi war machine. But they never mention the thousands of gypsies that were killed by the Nazis. No one ever talks about that because no one wants to talk about the positives." Prime Minister Boris Johnson's spokesman then branded the joke unacceptable, while Health Secretary Sajid Javid urged people to boycott the one-hour special. "Obviously, those comments are deeply disturbing and it is unacceptable to make light of genocide," Boris' spokesman said, adding that mocking the atrocities of the Holocaust is unacceptable but that it is a matter for Netflix when it comes to whether or not the special should be removed. The spokesman added, "We are looking at toughening measures for social media and streaming platforms which don't tackle harmful content on their platforms. We are looking at regulatory changes for streaming companies. We are clear that any change in legislation needs to be proportionate, to ensure freedom of speech within the law is not stifled." Meanwhile, a petition called "The Genocide of Roma is Not a Laughing Matter" was signed by more than 15,000 people. Gypsy leaders also invited the stand-up performer to Auschwitz to remember the genocide later this year. Despite the widespread outrage, Channel 4 bosses backed Jimmy and announced he'll front another series of his game show I Literally Just Told You. The broadcaster confirmed the comic will host another 8 episodes of the series, which first aired last year, despite calls for him to be cancelled in the wake of his controversial gaffe. In an interview with Broadcast Magazine, Channel 4 chief Ian Katz backed Jimmy's controversial humor, saying, "I defend the rights of comedians to make offensive jokes, and if they can't, then comedy is dead." Jimmy isn't espoused any views at odds with C4 values, and just as we as a broadcaster exist to serve and represent a wide range of communities, we should always be home to the widest range of voices. He added, the Ofcom code states that material which may cause offense has to be justified by clear context, and we make those calls day in, day out. It's really hard to generalize, but you look at each show on its merits.